Anyways, sOs versus Zest. One of these guys will go into the round of 8, securing several thousand more dollars for themselves and a shot at life-changing money. Both these players are champions in their own right, but only one of them will have a chance to fight for this BlizzCon. In the top right-hand side, as the blue Protoss, it's sOs. And his opponent, lower left-hand side, one of the absolute most handsome players in all of the world, it's Zest.
They have a bit of a storied rivalry, actually. They've met a lot of times in the past, and I feel like if I hadn't looked at the stats, I personally wouldn't have been able to guess that it was the case, but it's 13-5 in encounters in Zest's favor, 22-9 in maps. And for sOs, actually, like if you same thing. Like if you had to guess like who are his nemesis, number 1 would be Innovation, against whom is 14 maps down. Number 2, Zest, 13 maps down. So Zest kind of seems to, in the past, have had sOs's number, but a lot of these games are dating back like 2013. Like these guys have been playing against one another in like forever, all the time.
Well, it's fun. As a frequent viewer, I would say, of Team Liquid and the kind of threads following GSL and stuff like that, they very often, the hardcore fans, the watchers of all the tournaments, break into a kind of a debate between sOs and Zest and some of these other pros players in terms of who's the best PvP player in the world. And these are two of the names that come up in that list. But as you just pointed out, Zest just seems to have the number of sOs. In fact, so much so that Nick is beginning to believe that there could be something happening outside of the game. It could actually be manipulating those results. But here we go. We got a little bit of an interesting pylon place there from sOs, and very often, like what I want to point out about this is that's just below his own base. So this kind of screams hidden tech. And very often, even then, when you hide tech, it's like lower right or top left, something zany like that.
Yeah.
But if you were playing sOs, those would be the places you might actually check, as we see Zest is perusing around the map here.
Yeah, it's a great mind game for sOs to do this, because Zest is going to see that there's no second pylon in the main base and get like ultra paranoid. What if from there, sOs doesn't do anything unconventional? Then Zest is the one like being maybe extra defensive, kind of trying to look out for everything. And I mean, if there's nothing special coming, then he's getting ready for nothing. And then what if sOs just plays an economic game, gets a lot of probes out, which by the look of things, he's expanding pretty quick, adding on 2 sentries here behind the Stalker.
Todd, you've identified this perfectly, and I love that. This is a big map too. Cerulean Falls, one of the biggest maps, if not the biggest map in the pool. And that pylon is going to throw him off. He did have a scouting probe inside the main.
Zest, you naughty boy.
Dark Shrine.
Dark Shrine hidden on the left-hand side. I feel like, what if the hallucinated Phoenix that he's going to get with the Sentry flies by that left side, which is very common to try and avoid the Stalkers?
Todd, I'm even looking at this production tab, though. Like, the very common follow-up here is Robo. You don't usually go Stargate after double Sentry like that.
And there's a wall of how DT is going to get in with Sentries and a potential like unit blocking this off. But I'm worried about the hallucination. Like, if he sees this early, then it's
of course
guaranteed perfect defense.
Yeah. Still no Robo, though, here.
How much energy on these Sentries?
Sentries? Not. I mean, that Shrine will... There's the Robo for Zest, hilariously enough. No tech at all from sOs just yet. I mean, sometimes you add gateways for some kind of weird timing attack. Maybe a peculiar Stargate. I mean, he's adding shield batteries.
This could be getting
muscling up for what he thinks is a timing attack. There's no Robo at all.
Wow.
This might actually just be the worst game of all BlizzCon here in a second. You can have force fields, but if you literally have to then build a Robo, I don't care, you're dead.
And that's the thing with sOs. He's been so willing to roll the dice in the past. He's ready to live by the sword and also die by it. And it feels like literally he's gonna die from
He's gonna die from an invisible one. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes they're two-pronged, like Darth Maul.
Oh my god, he's not even in position.
There's just now a Robo.
Is he looking? Is he ready to force field?
Wow.
Even he sees it, he sees it, okay. Whew, I thought he was gonna miss it. Robo is on the way. But this is gonna be ring around the rosy, unwanted ring around the rosy.
I was gonna say, this is ordering stuff from the merch store, but from Australia. Like, you're like, I really like that that Overwatch thing. I'm gonna order that. They're like, all right, where you living? He's like, Sydney, mate. And they're like, okay, I'll get there in 6 months. We'll see you in a little bit. That's when that Robo's gonna show up. And
that's when he'll start mining from that expo, whereas Zest is mining from his.
Well, here's the funny thing. Zest doesn't know how bad this is, right? Like, you could attack the gateway here. You could add more DTs to really go after this, but he's being very economic about this. So it's actually at the
he
end
has
of
no
the
more
day.
force fields?
Yeah, but it's just one DT.
Yeah, well,
I was gonna say this game's gonna be mega over. It's not. Look at him, he's even backing out.
wow, we could have killed a lot of probes there actually if he committed.
I mean, look, the damage is done. So for the again, people are like, yeah, this is really good. Yes, it is. But Zest didn't know how bad it was for SOS at all. He's giving him more respect than he deserves in this game a little bit. He's like, you know what? You've got detection on the way,
Oh, he's
right?
gonna drop the DT and hit. Like, he knows there couldn't be 2 observers out just yet, most likely. So he's gonna hit with the DT in the main and in the natural at about the same time, saying one of these bases is gonna lose a lot of probes. And right now, any probe that he kills is just so good for him because he's building up his walker count on the other side of the map.
And he knew that DT was coming. So as you said, Todd, he picks it off over here.
He tried to pull back just on time here too. Like, there was too many units. Did you see those reflexes? He's not just all muscles in control.
He's got some calisthenic? No, not calisthenic. What's the... Anyways. We'll ask my doctor friends later what kind of muscles are. But yeah, very good situation here for Zest. Now, if you look at the supply, it doesn't seem to be that bad. It's really not. It's not completely over just yet, but we have the faster upgrades. So the Twilight Council already finished, of course, so there is that charge. Additional gateways coming in. Their first attack upgrades about the same time. I do like this from SOS. One of the best comeback mechanics in PvP, if you will, is going to be those disruptors. But you know what? I do want to say comeback is... We're not talking about SOS being completely out of this. I mean, again, he's just down 4 workers. It's actually still a fairly close game, thanks to that fast expansion and good crisis management.
What happened to DTs, man? Every time we see DTs notice, like, oh my god, he has no detection, this is over. And then, like, suddenly, like...
It's like, okay, all right.
It's only, like, 4 walkers difference or so, or 3, and then the guy's, like, still totally in the game.
Well, wait till they get their buff, Mr. Todd, and then they'll be blinking all over the place, just after BlizzCon.
Fear Dragon wins GSL.
Yep. Incoming. He's like, you want to drop? I'll drop you too. Comes a couple of Adepts. This is, of course, the poor man's DT drop. They're still going to get some economic damage in here and get a good scout. Sees a lot of the additional gateways going down. One of the things to keep note of, too, in this matchup, you don't want that many Stalkers, blink or not. They're just not that strong of a fight unit. And this will get spotted here on that left side. You did talk about hallucinations just a little bit later than you thought. 6 gateways for SOS as well. If there's a third Nexus, neither player are thinking about it right now.
You want to go Dark Shrine? I'll show you how to use the Dark Shrine. He's going Dark Shrine as well. He's SOS now. Who would expect this as well at this stage? Like, most people, they would just throw up a Templar Archives, go charge load Archon.
Whoa. This is going Archon drop here. Okay. But
he forgot the Archons.
He did forget the Archons. The War Prison was actually full, is the funny thing. So it was like an Archon drop. It's 1 DT and 3 Zealots, I think, in there.
Wait, does he actually want to attack with it?
Hey, Archons.
Oh, he's just going to poke at the front to try and bring SOS's army in, like, out of position. Oh, he might just attack. He's moving across the map with the rest.
Big warp in here. Zealot's going to come in to join this force. There actually is an Observer there, by the way. The Archon's way out of position.
I love the cannon in main base, because then he doesn't have to defend Observer against DTs there.
Zest
actually, that cannon might just die.
Here. 1 Archon die immediately.
He can warp in DTs now. Okay,
no,
the Observers came back.
Yeah, there was an Observer.
There might be some in natural then. I think he has only 1 Observer.
Well, we'll have to wait and see here.
Zest trying to swarm SOS with charge loss all over the place. Double Immortal here in that location as well. Shield battery running out of energy already. And Zest might be doing it.
Yeah, he's doing it right now. The mineral line fight is going in the favor of Zest. He's up 20 supply. Most of that in army. The Immortals are chopped down. GG's called out, and SOS has had enough of this strange aggression from Zest. I'll tell you what, he came in kind of piecemeal and sloppily at the natural, but it was just his eagerness to fight that threw SOS off. I think SOS is just like, he's the one used to doing that to his opponents, but Zest fought fire with fire there and pulled out the early Dark Shrine to some decent effect, but followed it up with the aggression that was scouted, Todd, but he just wasn't able to get the defenses in place in time.
Just feels like Zest still has SOS's number, much like in their previous encounters. He actually ties Innovation now for the most map wins with 14 up against SOS.
Are you telling me we're making esports history right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm all right with that.
You know what would be even more historical if SOS broke the Artosis curse and somehow won this and lived up to Artosis' expectation of doing well in this tournament. But you can't fight things this powerful.
Sometimes you can. Now, TY was able to just barely escape the Artosis curse and make his way out of there. We should be seeing... I mean, Haas got struck down hard by that as well. And now SOS...
I mean, he totally would have made it without that.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But Zest, like you said, you actually said something very interesting, had his number. And I think this is something that is often overlooked. I know that us commentators talk a lot about it. I can feel the collective eye roll of a lot of the viewers where they're like, come on, no, but it's a thing. If a guy has this dominant record against you, it becomes something when you say, okay, I got this opponent, shoot, they know me. They know me so well that they constantly beat me. What do I do? You start questioning yourself. You lose that confidence. And I feel like for sOs and his playstyle, he has to have confidence, because if he's going to take these gambles, if he's going to do this weird, zany stuff, but he doesn't believe in it, then he's going to bail out of it. He's going to have misreads. All that kind of stuff can happen.
He must have full faith in his build orders and abilities. And, well, that faith didn't take him too far here with those DTs forcing the ring around Rosie on that expansion.
All right, well, we're in game number 2 here on Blue Shift. Lower left-hand side, trailing 0-1. It is sOs. And his opponent in the top right-hand side, looking good in that first game. It's the red Protoss, Zest. And as people have been saying, Zest has won a major tournament since 2014. There really is only this one to go. So if history is, wouldn't that be something, right? We're all talking about Serral and Maru and stats, and just Zest kind of quietly is like, no, I'm just going to win BlizzCon.
Yeah, even a Classic, winning the recent GSL Super Tournament, there's definitely a good amount of hype around him. Yeah, I think going into this tournament, like, unless you're like a hardcore Zest fan, I don't think too many people will like predict him to go to the finals or win it, but he's still around, he's still relevant, and he's looking pretty damn good here so far in the series as well. Up against an sOs who personally I expected to be able to do better here in this tournament. Like, obviously, he's not out of it just yet, but if first game is any indication here, he's in a lot of trouble against Zest, and he's going to have to start really stepping it up if he wants to be able to advance. Yeah,
that's the brutal nature of this first weekend of BlizzCon. They're just short best of 3, so you only have a few games to show yourself off. And like you said, if Zest does complete this series, a lot of what I will remember about sOs is what Serral did to him, and now what Zest is doing to him. And that's, you know, it's kind of savage in how much of a snapshot that is, but it is the reality we deal with.
I wonder what Zest's thought process about that pylon outside of the base last game was. Maybe he was like, maybe you are proxying something outside on the map, but then wouldn't you be even weaker against something like a Dark Shrine, and maybe I don't even care about it? Because on this side of the map, it seemed like he was ready enough, and it was definitely sOs that wasn't quite ready for the Dark Templars. Even though obviously like the wall off and, you know, the force fields were clean, he didn't miss that one.
Yeah.
He didn't go full, remember like the season 1, like global finals? There was a game lost like this where there was a force field missed. I think it was like between Creator and someone.
Stargate down here, lower right-hand side, proxied out from sOs this time. Just to kind of complete your thought there, though.
Because, sorry, but because of the first game, he hit a pylon out on the map and did nothing with it. Now Zest sees the same thing. So there's that mind game of, maybe I'm hiding a pylon out on the map and maybe I'm not going to use it again, except this time he uses it. That's pretty cool from sOs.
Yeah. Right. Well, he did do something with it. He expanded, I guess. But to your point, yes. It wasn't the proxy. They're both proxying each other, though. This is amazing. And
Much later one for Zest.
Hmm?
Much later one for Zest, like in terms of Stargate. It's like...
They're both doing exactly the same thing, actually. Like,
what is going on?
Teleportations. Slightly better by sOs here. Oracle out earlier here for sOs.
Does he get a shield battery here? Because without a shield battery in the middle line...
Oh, he actually blocked it. Didn't he? Is that a blue pylon? Am I misseeing this? Yeah, it's a blue pylon to block the lock-in, but it still can be locked in. Okay. He tried. He gave it his best shot.
Okay, I see a shield battery starting for Zest. That might be the saving grace. Like, if you don't have a shield battery against this, like, you might as well leave the game when the Oracle gets in. Or I guess in this case, he's gonna have the Oracle.
Sorry, Todd, the shield battery's down there.
Oh God. Oh. What about sOs's? Because I see he's getting one as well.
Yeah, that one's better placed.
Wow.
So this Oracle shows up and there's nothing here. This could just be GG, like almost immediately. You can go back to the shield battery, that's fine. A couple of stalkers are actually blocked out. They will get back in. The missed mining time alone in a mirror matchup is bad, but it's a mirror build in a mirror matchup, guys. And he's actually going to just, at least for now, sack the Oracle and just go for kills.
12 probes. Now all he has to do is transfer everything down next to the shield battery. sOs. Oh, that's so sick. He sees the shield battery, he's like, I can't kill many probes if you react properly, so uses Stasis Ward but only traps 3 probes. So I mean, he's not even killing them, he just trapped them for some time against losing 12 of his own probes.
No, it's very bad for Zest. Zest is down to 15 workers right now. sOs strong at 25, which is actually oversaturation. So it's a little bit of bleed over, but he's got the 2 oracles, by the way, which can just show up, and if you have the 1 shield battery, they still one-shot probes. So more damage is about to come in, and here come those oracles. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's just gonna keep going that way for a little while here, as the shield battery is still not even finished. Zest, you got 8 workers. Now listen, you're really good at StarCraft, like really good, but you're not this good.
But if you can come back in this game, I don't know what. Like you
You cannot come back.
Yeah, I mean,
Todd, get out of here.
sometimes
Get out. With
the
what?
impossible happens. I don't know. I was just trying to get to a point where you agree to get a Zest tattoo on your sleeve.
Oh, no, I can't risk that. It's hard to explain that one for the rest of your life, I think. So Zest is just going to keep pulling out the workers, but it is close to a double supply situation here for SOS.
Look at the income down there. 35 minerals.
And
This is
where,
the saddest
this might
thing.
be it, actually. You pull the double oracle, maybe you get so much damage in that it kind of equalizes, but even after all of that, he's still down 6 workers. Now that was good damage, but there's the 3 Phoenix out there against a now depowered Stargate.
Yeah. And I think SOS might just hit here in a second and finish this.
Yeah. So the tech advantage is massive, because all that can happen here for Zest is he can warp in more Stalkers. But the Stalkers by themselves would have a tough time against the Phoenix. Never mind the fact that the Phoenix of SOS also have a ground army and an Oracle to back them up.
SOS is... I don't think he plans on playing this for too much longer. Gonna head across the map, like unless... I mean, even if Zest gets a pylon to block the shading inside of his base and gets a sentry to force field the rest, all SOS has to do is maybe kill that pylon and then go in.
No, I like that you're going down the possibilities here right now. But it is over, man. The Phoenix can come over and pick up 4 out of the 6 Stalkers if they want to. He's going to go for economic damage, I guess. Behind this SOS is making the Robo. He's actually going to pull back and just defend. I guess that's okay. The Phoenix have gotten a look at the entire base, and the idea that there's a second pylon out there proxying a second tech is very unlikely. It is, of course, possible on some level.
I'm surprised, actually, SOS didn't shade in, because it would have synergized very well with his Phoenixes, and he would have killed, like, I don't know, basically the rest of the probes of Zest.
100% agreed. And Adepts are expendable at that point in time.
SOS is ahead, he's facing a guy that he usually loses to, so he's covering all of his bases. He even goes for observers behind this, no more DT shenanigans.
It's only DT that could kill him here.
Yeah, it's like one of the only avenues, really, where you can come back in this kind of game.
What I like about this, though, is that we have the full vision, so we can actually tell, nope, there's actually not even the possibility of that. He's adding some sentries and stalkers up here. I believe we'll see like a couple of gateways and some kind of 4-gate push. But look at his natural. It's riddled with stasis wards. Anytime he leaves, there's going to be some kind of adept counterattack, or the Phoenix can show up and shut down a whole bunch of stuff. So this is that weird part of the commentary where, for us as commentators, he's super dead, but we have to stop mentioning it because it gets repetitive. So we'll just be like, well, what if he, traps the whole army and that SOS just like disconnects or something? That happens. All right. Wow.
SOS gets the equalizer and is still alive here in this tournament after a very scrappy game. Decisive, though, from him. Like you mentioned, maybe not believing in his build order enough. This time he definitely did. He was going for that Stargate on the map. And like I mentioned, there was a crazy mind game behind it where in game number 1, he made a second pylon outside of his base, didn't use it, which builds up super well into the second game where he builds the pylon outside on the map. And maybe Zest this time around is like, oh, well, he didn't use it last game, maybe he won't this time, so I'll be the one doing a proxy Stargate. Well, guess what? The Oracle of SOS was much faster. Yeah,
you used the word decisive there, and I think you're right. Not going for any kind of like safety behind that. It was just all about that proxy, got there faster. And that was the X factor, right? Like there was going to be a shield battery, but it was not in time. So the single Oracle showed up and did just absolutely massive amounts of damage. Double Oracle kind of sealed the deal here. For Zest, this is a weird game where you can kind of be like, it's a shame that I lost that. Obviously, you want to win every game, but he can also write that off. Because when Oracle shows up and you don't have a shield battery in that situation, you're just most likely dead. He tried to make a game of it after that and wasn't able to do so. So we're all tied up. This next game will determine whether or not we get to see more from Zest or SOS at this BlizzCon tournament. And after today, guys, there's going to be a little bit of a break. We'll reconvene next Friday to decide who's going to win over $250,000 for first place.
And not only are we playing, are we qualifying the last few players here into the round of 8, we're also drawing the bracket later today, which I'm very hyped about.
Yep. Going to be very, very interesting. We already know the first 4 and now 5th player that's joining them. I like that Hutchinson tried to ask. He's like, who do you want to face? And he's like, oh, they're all tough. Okay, thank you. Great question. I mean, it was a good question, just terrible answer. But here we are in the final game of this series on Acid Plant, lower right-hand side, as the blue Protoss. It's SOS. And a huge shout out to Maynard, of course, for playing this guitar solo. A lot of people have been asking where this music came from. You can check him out at Maynard on Twitch. But in the top left-hand side, the red Protoss, it's Zest. And before we go too much further, I also want to give some love to our observers. You guys are doing a great job. Lots of people have been watching and joining us on this journey. It's been really fun hanging out with you guys. A lot of threads on Reddit and Team Liquid, tweets on Twitter. Just know that we're all reading it. We appreciate it. Well, everyone's reading except for Tasteless. Tasteless doesn't read any comments, so we've been conveying them to him and sharing the love for sure.
You know, by the way, like so far, the players qualifying into the round of 8, 2 Terrans, 2 Zergs, 1 Protoss, and we're about to have another one.
That
so it's going to be 2, 2, 2.
Balance.
Shout out to my man David Kim.
Yeah, hey, not bad. And the rest of the guys that stayed behind to keep balancing after David Kim. Doing a good job. All right. So let's see the... Yeah, I was just going to say, the second pylon shenanigans, does it continue?
Apparently, yeah. I mean, he already has that probe out on the map. He has the choice right now of whether to go for it. It's actually a little bit of a delayed second pylon. No, he goes for it in his main base.
For the third look, right? 3 games, 3 different ideas behind the second pylon.
You know what would have been sick if he made a second pylon in his base, but then the real second pylon, which is the third one, out on the map.
Secondary second pylon, yeah.
Well, yeah, SOS is already like he probably thinks that SOS that Zest will think that, so he didn't do it because he's way ahead of them.
They're playing the out of game StarCraft right now that Nick was talking about earlier.
Too many steps ahead.
Nick's always so many steps ahead. Pseudo hidden pylon there for both players.
Yeah.
So far, an exact mirror image, except for what's on the production tab. We have 2 adepts for Zest. And Zest was one of those players that did popularize the 6 adept mid-map control style, but it has a lot of volatility to it as well. If they get caught by a certain number of stalkers mid-map and they just get run down and killed, then it's huge opportunity lost. But 2 stalkers behind that as well. Very aggressive stance coming out from Zest. And then a Robo. Now, one of the builds we haven't seen so far in this BlizzCon, we haven't seen a lot of PvP, mind you, and one of those was Has. We were kind of guaranteed not to see anything like this. But I do want to say with that Robo placed where it is, where is it? Anyway, well, it's normal. We could see a 3-gate stalker push, and there's that 3rd gateway being added right there. And this is a very strong build that just outright kills a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Twilight Council's not good here for SOS at the first glance. If it gets to blink and can defend initial aggression, it can get very good.
I kind of want to add an asterisk and say, like, if you're not ready, right? A lot of these players, if they can't see kind of what's coming, they'll get a well-placed shield battery. Shield batteries are basically the key to defending everything, whether it's like in your middle line against Stargate or outside of your expo against an attack at the front.
Yeah, the problem this build poses, though, is that by the time you most often scout it with like a hallucination or just some kind of read, some little bit of early aggression here. Very often you're already developed in your tech. So a Warp Prism shows up in like 9 stalkers.
He can't make the pylon because the stalkers, they were blocking.
Yeah.
Does he shade that? Nah, stalkers are already there.
I would.
Oh, yes.
Woo. Yeah, you're going to get some probe kills here. And
I'm
this
surprised
is
he's not moving the probes. He could have saved
one base timing attack. The pullback here is a little bit interesting. Oh, wow. He just scouts everything.
Let me out. Let me out. I'm out.
Good call. And a Dark Shrine out in the map, by the way.
Wow.
As well as a Robo. So he cancels the Nexus. He needed to. Something about this tells him that there's some kind of aggression coming his way.
I like that SOS didn't get too stubborn with the Expo. He's like, oh, you want to be aggressive? Kind of probably identified that it was like the 3 gateway, but there is an observer on the way across the map. So...
Oh, a lot of shield batters. So SOS knows, man.
Yeah.
Like you said, he knows what he's facing.
How much does he commit on the DTs? That's what I wonder about. Like, does he get like just 1 to try and get in and do some damage? And also, where is the observer going to be? Because if Zest sends that across the map, this is, oh my god.
You can recall it, but you're right.
No.
Could be bad. Now, this is the strength of this. You're on that low ground. You can start picking away at the 2 gateways.
Gates? That's a big deal, actually, sniping a gateway there.
It is a big deal. Todd,
what are you doing?
A little bit of a tasteless moment there. Stalker's at the low ground here now. Going to think about committing. Actually, with that sentry, it kind of tells me he's not thinking about it. He's just going to be happy with blocking this. He expands behind it.
Yeah, DT being warped in. I think... Is there anything in the wall of this?
Counterplay here. Oh, okay, he's not.
He can recall, like you said, but...
He can, but does he have the energy? Click on that Nexus Observer. He will in
Does
a
he
second,
save it?
but what if he chrono boosts?
Yeah, oh, that.
It's like a scan for Terran. You know, when they just scan, the DT shows up and they're like, you gotta be kidding me. Did he chrono?
Still has the energy? No, he didn't.
Okay.
I think he's good. Imagine he chrono boosts right
Well, he's
now.
good,
as
but
he
he's still
starts
gonna lose
dicing.
5 or 6 probes.
Yeah. Actually, he's
bad.
running back. Wait, what?
You know what? Not every player thinks to recall, actually, the Observer.
Maybe it was just kind of like splits. I think he left the observer
Oh
across
my
the map or
God.
something.
The damage
What is going
pretty
on?
Bad. It's pretty bad at this point in time. Oh no, it's not even coming back. He thinks he has to build it?
Oh my.
Oh, he has another one.
Oh!
Okay.
Woo! Almost got out.
Nice move from SOS, though. The proxy DT does disrupt enough of Zest that gives him a chance, but a couple of adepts show up in the mineral line. And just when you're getting excited about SOS's chances, Zest is going to close the door a little bit. Not a slam, Todd. It's like a rude salesman door close. We're like, no, no, sir. No, thank you.
Actually,
I told you about vacuum cleaners. You're like, no.
Zest kind of salvaged that. Like, I thought it was going to be an easier hold, but at least he killed the Dark Templar after the recall was used.
Some
Oh my
weird
God.
stalker.
Guardian Shield! Does he have the energy?
Well, wouldn't save him too much here, my man. But meanwhile, Adepts again inside that main base.
That sentry is like, I'll die anyway, and then the Adepts are like, will you though?
Yeah.
They just shade out.
Really though?
Oh, they didn't attack. Kill that darn sentry.
They do get out. Now, both players are doing everything they can. Remember, this is game 3. They're equal in workers. Army supply very even.
What is the
Hex
unit stab
similar?
left?
Sorry, Todd, what?
Unit's lost stab.
Okay.
Kind of similar. 1 DT counts for 3 Adepts and 3 Stalkers.
Very good.
Then it's similar.
These Adepts getting so much damage in here, though. And suddenly the economic advantage is clearing in favor of Zest as he remains committed. Now, those Adepts are coming from a Warp Prism, by the way. Both players have a similar idea. The Immortal going to try to hold on. There is that Guardian Shield you were talking about, the low count Stalker. Not going to be able to do too much there.
And this is great in a low econ game to go for glaives like this, because he already has a Dark Shrine as well. So if SOS makes like 1 or 2 Archons and mass Adepts and then hits the timing, it's going to be very hard for Zest to actually hold. He's a couple of walkers ahead, I guess.
Yeah. Tough for me to see the money, but to your point, yeah, maybe a future plan. We can see the Forge coming up here for Zest as well, so he's definitely thinking later in the game. The Warp Prism's spotted, and it's being kind of sequestered over there. Both players see it.
So much harassment. Like, a lesser player would have taken so much damage and already be out of this, but they're both so incredibly good with the micro and controlled aggression.
Still trying to look for an opening for that Dark Templar. It just one-shots probes, so it doesn't need much time. And we do have Immortals coming out for SOS. No additional gas at the natural, so I think Todd's prediction is pretty good. Maybe some Adepts, a few Immortals, or even just the 2, the Warp Prism, and a couple Archons, and that's going to be what you go to win thousands of dollars more and advance to the round of 8 in BlizzCon.
To be fair, every time I say that, I'm like, oh, he's going to hit the timing, he's not getting upgrades. Like, I see him drop like a 3rd Nexus, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, late upgrades.
He's got Blink. This could be the end of that Warp Prism. It is. It should be.
2 more gates for SOS.
Mm-hmm.
So everything pointing towards him doing an attack here. I mean, if you think that Zest might get a little bit complacent and just kind of, you know, turn on autopilot and keep on playing standard, what's the next step? He takes the 3rd base. Usually you get a lot of gateways as well.
Actually, that was a hallucination from SOS.
5 more gates for SOS. Okay, if he's not hitting the timing there.
No, he is. It's
I don't know
so
when he will.
important that Zest sees this coming, by the way. He's adding 3 of his own gateways. That's like the normal amount, though. If he knew, I mean, if he drops a 3rd Nexus, oh my God, these Stalkers. If they blink over, they don't see it. Okay, this is huge.
Yeah, you need. I mean, he's gonna see the gateways, but you don't really know if the opponent is gonna get that 3rd Nexus and how much he's making probes. Obviously, you need to confirm that 3rd Nexus.
Right here.
It will tell you.
Those are fake. Those gases are fake. Watch. This is so smart. He's gonna cancel them. I'm almost certain of it.
He sees. Actually, I wonder if he was looking whether there was the army on the other side of the map. Let's see. Is this getting shield batteries at the front? Ooh, more like in the. Damn. Does he know? He's getting glaives himself. Zest starts +2. If he knew that he was coming, I don't think he would start +2, maybe even start working on some sort of a wall and more shield batteries. This could be very dangerous. SOS's army is really strong right now. Especially because he's going to have glaives and Zest won't. And Zest has so many stalkers, which against this kind of army is not that great because of Guardian Shield.
Armor supply, very similar. +1 attack, however, though, in favor of Zest.
He sees it now, but I mean, does he have time to get ready? More shield batteries are on the way here. He might have to pull some probes. There's a bunch of probes ahead. Does SOS commit? He got a good look at his army. Does he think he can break it? He's going to go for it anyway. Here we go.
And the attack is on. Archon's kind of leading the charge here. Not getting great shots. Kiting backwards is Zest. Not bad work by him. The Adepts trying to find their area of surface, and they are getting some of that, but the two Immortals in the back there, so powerful, and pushing back a little bit here is Zest. He's going to try to shade in, but it's going to be blocked here by Zest. And from there, SOS is adding, that's 4 sentries. Holy Toledo. There's no Archons on the flip side for Zest, so he can try to fight with his own little concave, zeroing out a big chunk of the army, and he does just that. He gets an Immortal by itself.
Ooh,
and now he's taking the fight over here on the left flank.
SOS is so smart. He sees this base overlay here, and he knows that if he keeps on using force fields, he might be able to section parts of this army away and keep on dealing with it as well as he can.
Army supply getting to be a little bit favored here of Zest. Of course, as I said, he loses 8 supply.
He's going to keep on doing this. Warp in sentries, move in, kill as much as he can, pull back. Yeah. And eventually, I mean, if he starts on killing those cannons and those pylons, this is going to be the beginning of the end here for Zest, who's running out of Stalkers here a little bit. Warp Prism is going to help a lot here to move back some of those units.
Warp Prism pulls back those units. They're getting isolated.
Oh, he unpowered a shield battery and one of the cannon on the right side. SOS with way more army supply, 43 to 28.
Yep, he might have done it just now. He's actually carved for himself a favorable fight, and he's taking it. The 2 Immortals of SOS just wailing on this army of Zest. Zest had a pretty good defense going for himself, but the sentries might have been exactly the right call. Here come the probes, and it's going to push back this just a little bit. But behind that's only a few Adepts and a single Immortal for Zest. Zest going into this, the dominant monster over SOS in terms of their personal matchup, but SOS is playing inspired here. He's going to start fighting at that mineral line, blocking off most of the economy. There's our second Archon coming in for Zest finally, but it could be too late, Todd.
Yeah, the move to go for sentries here and sectioning so much of this army was, I think, maybe the winning move. SOS was so smart, and I think he's going to be rewarded for it here with a big win against one of his nemesis, potentially. But Zest, Archons finally coming and start defending.
The Warp Prism Micro might be tipping this over in his favor. Both players are doing everything they can. It's a 12-worker advantage for SOS, but armies are actually dead even. So Zest has some more work to be done. There's some kind of recall happening here. I'm not sure where those.
Oh, they were in the main because he closed the wall.
Oh, he blocked it off. Okay.
He's like, I need to mine right now, and I don't want to kill that wall in case he tries to shade later on.
Gets up to full. Well, no.
Which, by the way, having a probe in the wall like he did for Zest, that was like, if he didn't have that, the game might be over already. Like, so many players would have not have that in position. That saved him against the Adepts. If the Adepts of SOS had shaded into the main, I think it's game.
Zest is making quite the decision right now. He says, I'm behind. I got to do something crazy, and he's taken 2 of his Archons, and he's going across the map.
He has +2. That's so huge. +2 against 0 attack upgrades. Is that enough, though, defensively against the army of SOS, who's going to keep on going basically all in here?
The Archons are hitting SOS right now, and SOS is hitting Zest. The entire series will be determined right here. Both players are bludgeoning their mineral lines. There's a DT that repels the attack. He has no detection over there. And that might just actually be it. He forgot about the DT tech. That could just be what does it. SOS is hammering away at the Nexus, and Zest is going to have to fight or he loses his natural.
He's flying back, but that's going to take forever for this Warp Prism to get back in position. And his Archons are so missing in that fight right now. He pulls the probes, one of the Guardian Shield helps here for a little bit. Zest running out of army here very quickly, and SOS keeps on reinforcing straight into the fight. 26 walkers against only the 18.
Not in time. Zest is going to tap out, and SOS will be playing at that next weekend of BlizzCon. He will be advancing to the top 8, and he beat his nemesis to do it. A nice little personal story for that guy, who every time he goes to a tournament with a big prize pool, he makes new fans. The guy doesn't know anything but winning and advancing.
I cannot believe that he sent his Archons across the map here, did Zest. If he had kept that back at home, would have had a much better chance to just kind of hold. Wow, so many little decisions all adding up to eventually SOS getting the better end here of Zest.
Yeah, well, I can't say I disagree with you, Todd. It's just I have such admiration and respect for these players where in these games, those little choices, you gotta commit to them, and it's just like that's what they live and die off of. But in this case, it will be a die. We're gonna go over to the couches with James and hear all about this amazing action-packed series.
SOS manages to send out the signal flare, and he will be moving into the round of 8 here after being victorious in this 2-1. And very close there towards the end between these two, really down to the wire. Actually, a very back and forth kind of crazy series we had. Well, we expected.
I mean, that wasn't clean. That wasn't pretty by any means, but it's what we said at the start. SOS, he seems to be kind of just getting his way through just barely these series, and he is playing a little bit cleaner with each game that goes along, but his games are absolutely crazy.
Yeah. I said, like, this is not going to be a slow and steady series. It's going to be chaos. It truly was one of those, like, buckle up and enjoy the ride, and you have no idea where it's going to go. Yeah, that was pretty mental. And I mean, he is in the quarterfinals now. You know, I'm still not blown away by everything that he's shown so far, but the man is growing in the tournament.
He is so sick. That last game was such a nail biter. We were all on the edge of our seats here at the couch. It's incredible how he's able to just bend the game to his will. You know, he knew exactly how far to push it, and then he backs up, regroups, and I mean, again, you can never count SOS out.
Yeah.
He's been the world champion twice. I know that we're focused a little bit more on some other players, but maybe he will do it a third time. I don't know.
Well, that's the most important thing, right? Like the fact that we still now have all of our potential repeat world champions still in the running, with Rogue actually getting through in the first place, SOS now being able to move through as well. A 3-time world champion would be amazing, but the competition here is extremely fierce.
I mean, and that's why we've been doubting him, to be honest. You know, we have been a little bit critical and saying, oh, you know, it's a cool story. He's never lost when he goes to BlizzCon. But realistically, what does that mean here on the big stage against such stiff competition? Well, it's enough to go to the top 8 at least.
Right.
So, I mean, it's standing strong for him there. Those games were definitely just by the edge of his fingernails. He managed to close that out, and hats off to him for it.
Well, we can talk about it more in a second. Let's head over to the interview with SOS, moving on to the round of 8.
Thank you very much, James. I'm here with SOS, and what a series! Let's talk about the games. During the game 1, you hit the pylon here. What was your intention? 우선 8강 진출 축하드립니다. 이제 1세트 경기부터 얘기를 좀 하고 싶은데 수정탑을 숨기셨어요. 그때 작전이 어떤 작전이었나요?
제가 1경기, 2경기 다 수정탑을 숨겼는데 처음에 숨기고 그냥 더블을 먹고 두 번째 판에 좀 전진 우주 관문을 하기 위해서 그냥 첫 번째 판 심리전으로 숨겼어요.
So actually, I hit during game 1 and game 2, so twice the pylon. The first one is just like it was mental mind game, you know, and the second one it was to do the proxy Stargate. So next question, I was wondering how do you prepare for a PvP and especially against Zest? 이제 다음 질문은 이렇게 푸푸전 할 때는 어떻게 준비를 하시나요?
보통 제가 레더에서 게임은 연습은 하고 좀 생각해놨던 거를 팀원들한테 팀원 토스들한테 써봐가지고 이게 되는 건지 해봐서 쓰게 되는 것 같아요.
그럼 누가 제일 도움이 많이 돼요, 팀에서?
장현우 선수랑 조성호 선수, 크레이터랑 트랩 이렇게. 푸푸전 같은 경우에는 좀 공유를 할 수 없는데 팀원이다 보니까 거리낌 없이 공유할 수 있어서 이길 수 있는 것 같아요.
So for PvP, I start by practicing on the ladder, and then when I find an interesting build, I talk about it to my teammates actually, because you know when in a mirror matchup, it's really hard to talk to the other players. You know, you have to kind of hide your builds, but as they're my teammates, I can talk freely to Creator and Trap, and that's a really good thing. So. There are 3 junior players here, and they're all in the round of 8. So, do you have a secret about that? 8강 진출한 선수 중에 3명 다 진호 선수들이 진출을 하게 됐는데, 약간 뭐 비밀 같은 게 있나요?
우선 저 같은 경우에는 병렬이랑 성주가 좀 워낙 잘하다 보니까 옆에서 그냥 저도 자극 받아서 그냥 걔네들이 열심히 하니까 같이 열심히 하게 되는 것 같아요. 그냥 걔네 때문에 저도 올라온 것 같아요.
So, for me, as Maru and Rogue, they're really strong players and actually motivates me to do even better. And I think I could qualify for the next round thanks to my teammates. And do you have any last words to your fans? 이제 마지막으로 한마디 부탁드립니다.
좀 힘들게 좀 안 좋은 경기력도 많이 보여드렸고 했는데 그래도 이렇게 16강에서 8강으로 올라섰으니까 8강에서는 아직도 시간이 많이 남았잖아요. 그래서 준비된 모습으로 좋은 경기 보여드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다. Thank you.
So I still have time to prepare for the round of 8 and I couldn't play at my best from here. So I will do my best to show you better games. Thank you. Well, back to you guys.
Thank you. There we go. That's it. Jin Air with 3 players in the round of 8, as previously mentioned. I guess I should be wearing my jacket going into BlizzCon by the looks of things. Very good jacket to say the least. But SOS here moving through. It's apt and it's nice that we still have, again, the 2-time champion still alive here, still alive and kicking into the round of 8.
Yeah, I mean, that potential for the 3 times champion is just amazing. If that can happen, that will be fantastic. And I think it's just kind of a cool, very nail-biting series. To bring it back to that final game there, we were talking a little bit on the couch. We're like, you know, maybe if Zest went for an earlier Templar Archives and went for Archons rather than the Resonating Glaives, do you think that would have changed things, Roddy?
I think a lot of things could have changed that final game, right? I think the first 2 games, it kind of is what it is, you know. The DTs in game 1 could have done a little bit more damage, but that's something that we can see as observers. I thought overall game 1 and 2 were interesting. They were a little bit wild, but game 3, I think that's what we should mostly focus on. I think Recall lost Zest the game. I think in the beginning of the game he could have recalled the Observer and that would have nullified the majority of that damage that the first DT did. But I think later on as well, when he finally held the push, I mean, I do agree with what you said. Faster Archons, I think, would have made the push a little bit easier. Could have said maybe cancel +2, but I don't think all of that mattered that much. I think in the end, he got the job done, but then he didn't. Then he sent out the Warp Prism with the 2 Archons, because he just recalled the probes. Recall was on cooldown, and I actually believe, like, sure, he was down a couple probes, but +2 against 0-0. I think Zest had that game, if only he had those 2 Archons and the Prism.
You know, to go big picture here, let's keep in mind that, you know, as SOS is now advancing or getting further and further along here, he's the best at longer series, right? Best of 5s, best of 7s, like we've talked about. And the fact that he navigated through this best of 3 against somebody who is actually, at least tends to have his numbers, that's a very good sign for SOS. So I'm sure he's very relieved to finally advance here.
I mean, that's the first time that actually SOS has beaten Zest in a best of series.
Yeah.
So this is pretty huge. When you've got a player who's beaten you so many times over the years, to beat them here on the biggest stage, I mean, it's an SOS thing to do, isn't it? That's why we love to cheer for this guy. And I mean, this fight was so interesting as well. The force fields, I remember at first it didn't look great, the positioning for SOS, but then he slowly used those force fields to pick away at Zest, and Zest didn't have a Warp Prism to pick up and save his units. We saw units get sectioned off, and the cannons weren't in the fight a lot of the time. He was very good at staying out of range of those shield batteries and cannons. Great positioning from SOS.
Yeah,
really
this
cool
final battle was super interesting, because I think in the beginning SOS could have done this a little bit better, because he could have brought the Prism a little bit closer. There was nothing that was going to be able to shut that Prism down immediately. So you always want to have your Prism quite close to the fight, so you can pull back a couple of your Archons, because the fight started 2 Archons against 0 Archons. And then 3 seconds into the fight, 2 Archons are gone. And I'm like, what? Like,
they like went right into the arc. Like everything was shooting. It was like, oh, disappear.
But and then the first wave of force fields were like, the second one we're like, oh, you know, that's actually pretty good. And then it just got mad, it got wild. And I think in the end, it was an amazing hold by Zest. But then I think that Zest thought, all right, now this crazy guy is going to give up, and he's going to try to create, you know, a bigger lead with the minor economic advantage that he has. So then Zest started thinking about harassing, and that's what costed him the game. I mean, that final game was really fun and interesting, because it's just fun to see a battle that lasts for like 2 minutes, and you just have no idea who's going to win, right? So I think it was really cool.